Hello, everyone. Today, I want to give you a profile of what an actual narcissist looks like, a real one, because on this channel, we often talk a lot about narcissists, but I want to paint an actual picture of someone, a couple of guys who I think are narcissists. And they're two people that are on YouTube. So it's interesting because I think we look at narcissists and we think of them as one way, but they could actually be very charming and charismatic, and they could be exploiting you and doing all kinds of things to you in the name of charm. So I want to show you what a couple of these guys look like. YouTuber number one. So based on the content and tone of the speaker's presentation, I think there are a few aspects that could potentially indicate some narcissistic traits. Of course, he may not be narcissistic at all, but there are definitely some markers. So number one, a strong focus on personal success and accomplishments. The speaker frequently talks about his own high income, business ventures, speaking engagements, and past achievements. This suggests a preoccupation with self-promotion and a desire to present an image of success. Number two, emphasis on personal branding and image. The speaker places a lot of importance on having big creator energy and making sure one's channel and content look professional and high quality, even for smaller creators. This focus on outward appearances could be a sign of narcissism. Number three, dismissive attitude towards others. The speaker is rather critical of creators who don't have the same work ethic or privilege as him, implying they are making excuses. This lack of empathy or understanding for different circumstances is a narcissistic trait. Number four, sense of entitlement. The speaker seems to feel he has earned the right to provide strong opinions and advice, even for creators at different stages than him. This reflects a belief in his own superiority. So the speaker does exhibit some red flags that could point to narcissistic tendencies, and he gains his audience by convincing people of certain untruths that they will never accomplish, that they will never be able to reach realistically. Some will, but the great majority do not. And if you challenge that on any level, he will say, have you done all 100 of the things I've told you to do? 100? That is a lot. That's a lot. So then he will tell you, well, then that is why you are unsuccessful, because you're not doing all 100 of the things that I do. Meanwhile, he needs you to believe what he's telling you because his channel is based on that. So if for 1 second someone were to say, you're selling us a pipe dream, then how is he going to make his money? Because he's making his money by exploiting people to a certain degree. Yes, some of the things are helpful, but he's also very extreme when it comes to his academics, perfection, performing at a level that is really difficult for most people to perform at. I mean, and he's good at what he does, so I'm not saying that, but I've seen him destroy people when he thinks if you believe differently, then it's gonna hurt my chances of making money off of you. So there's definitely a lot of arrogance. There's hey, look how I look. But I mean, sometimes when people put it out there and say, look at how I look, you want to look fantastic and perfect. It kind of opens the doors for judgment in a way that you wouldn't if they hadn't said that. So it's like, okay, well, you're telling us to look like you, but that's all I'm going to say. This person also says that they were bullied as children, bullied mercilessly to the point of not finishing school. This guy is brilliant. He really is. But I find that a lot of narcissists claim that they have been bullied And yet they are the bullies. They are difficult. They talk down to people. They talk to people like they're stupid. They are arrogant and insulting. And if someone claps back, then they're bullying me. How can you treat someone as amazing as me so badly? They can't take it. They don't like confrontation, many of them, but they are heavy confronters. There's another YouTuber that I have been suspicious about lately, and this guy came across as very nice, very calm, very sweet, has, not sweet, but he has enormous followers. And lately he's been showing his true character. I'm seeing a lot of narcissism. And I'm trying not to see the narcissism because I want to like him. He's one of these relationship experts. But sometimes when people are by themselves, you don't see the narcissistic traits until they get with other people, and then they come blaring out. So he does his YouTube channel in the cheapest way possible. I can't blame him for that at all. I think that's smart. So he just uses his cell phone. No big deal. That's okay. But narcissists tend to be very frugal or miserly when it comes to spending, at least in certain areas. So, like, I watched him and his wife do some Christmas shopping, and he was in a horrible mood when he came out of the store because she spent a couple of $100s on Christmas items, and he was like, that I'm in a bad mood, you know, why are you spending money on that? But yet he's always rolling around in these really fancy vehicles of all types, and he shows them off, and it's like, you know, I have 10 vehicles and people are always complimenting me on them. And yeah, I got this Rolex watch, but people think I wouldn't be able to afford one. And when I'm at sporting events, people ask me about my Rolexes. And so he's always in these fancy cars. He's like, I love cars. So it's like you're spending all that money on a car, but like 10 of them. But then your wife spends a couple of hundred. And I can see being frugal or budgeting. So that's not necessarily a narcissistic trait. It's a great idea, especially in this economy, to budget and think wisely about your money. What I'm saying is, if somebody is a narcissist, there's got to be a stack of things. It can't just be one thing and you're saying, oh, they're a narcissist. No, there's going to be multiple little clues. So he recently went on somebody else's channel, and when people go on this channel, they share their expertise on relationships. They give you an interesting point of view. They help you. They give you tips. They give you perspective. They give you advice. And he went on there, and his whole mission was, how are you guys relationship experts? I've been doing this for years. You can't call. But he was talking indirectly to them, but about them, because they've only had their channel for about a year and it's going crazy, because they bring a lot of experts on there, and they just have a winning formula. And he was clearly jealous, clearly taking punches at them, telling one guy that he can tell that he's the type of guy that doesn't get women. And I'm thinking, that guy gets a lot of women, but why are you trying to put him down and insult him and make him feel like he's nothing? And you're on their show, and your whole thing is about, you know, why, indirectly talking, but we can all read between the lines. Why wasn't I the first person that was on your show? I'm the real expert. And you waited this long. And they were like, oh, but you know what? Sometimes it takes months, you know, to go through the red flags. And they gave him a glossy introduction with pictures and better than anybody that I'd ever seen. So they already feel that energy and that pressure, like people often do, that we better kiss this narcissist butt. because he's going to destroy us. And so we better elevate him the best that we can. And this guy brought family on to sit in the background to back him up. Then he ends up insulting a lot of other people about their relationship expertise to the point where some guy hopped on, who's also a YouTuber. I don't know him very well, but apparently he helps people with their relationships as well. That guy hops on the Zoom or whatever you want to call it, and they start fighting because the guy is like, why are you bringing up my name? You are insulting me. Why can't we both help people? If the mission is to help people to find happiness, what is wrong with us both doing it? We have different styles and we have different audiences. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, when are you going to impress us? When are you going to say something helpful? When are you going to say something that can help us to be better in our relationships? And that barely came around. It was like he spent the entire time talking about how he was in this industry before most people were, and that he is the guru of this. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, what are your credentials? Because that's something that he often talks about. I am the relationship expert. I study people for a living. Okay, that's great. You know what? YouTube is for any and everyone who has something they want to share or say. So you don't have to have any quote unquote credentials, but he's the one always talking about his credentials. And yet, what are his credentials? He says he studies people, he watches people. Okay, now this is going to sound braggadocious, and I'm not trying to, because I don't think I've ever mentioned this in all the years that I've done YouTube, but I'm trying to make a point here. I actually have 2 master's degrees. So there are things about counseling, and I don't know everything. I don't. I am not an expert in every area, but I have been trained in certain areas. So I could say I have credentials. He can't really say he has quote unquote credentials, but he has experience. He's learned a lot. He's talked to a lot of people. He's been married for a long time. He understands some things at work. And hey, I love hearing those things. So to argue that you're more qualified than someone else, it's like, okay, based on what credentials? Based on time? Based on experience? What are you basing that on? And then he's also hyper sensitive. All YouTubers are sensitive when it comes to the comment section, people writing ugly things. Sometimes people can be vicious and they can be very mean. So I totally understand that. But he seems over the top sensitive about any little thing. And sometimes it's like seems exaggerated, or just he's always talking about I block and delete people. He will spend an hour talking about blocking and deleting people and how he reads all of his comments so that he can delete people. And I'm like, when you have hundreds of thousands of followers, how do you read every single comment? Honestly, sometimes I have difficulty keeping up with the comments on, because I have 2 YouTube channels, but I try to read all of them. But when you have that many comments, you read every single one of them and then you attack people. So lately he's like, I'm turning off my comments because some of the people from that guy's channel, they are lower standard than my people. So I know it's them coming into my comments saying ugly things. Looked into his comment section and he had a whole bunch of comments after a very short time, and he had gone into his comments and wrote something to someone who was calling him a narcissist on a recent video. And he said, see, here you guys go again. And I'm thinking all the good stuff in the comment section, but you go and make a comment to the people saying something negative. You could have just deleted them, hid them, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, nobody wants anybody to say anything mean to them. I get it. But like I said, he will spend an entire hour talking about people who are saying mean things to him. And it could be the slightest slight, just something that he disagrees with, or it could be something that doesn't even seem like a slight to somebody else. But he's hypersensitive. He gets super defensive really quickly, really easily. So you feel like you better walk on eggshells with this guy. Something he did the other day that bothered me, he will take letters from viewers who are having a problem, and this person wrote him a letter and they asked him if he would please not say the next thing that they were going to write. And it was about abuse, and someone had done something to a child. And I just thought it was such sensitive information. And he said, "You sent me this letter and you're not paying me for this. So I'm including everything in here, whether you like it or not." And I just thought, but you're exploiting her because you're going to make a lot of money off of this video. So even though she's not paying you, you're exploiting her because, in a way, I mean, yes, she's asking for your help and you are doing it free of charge. That's very nice. But you're also making a ton of money, and the information that she asks you to delete, it's court type information. It's just super delicate, touchy. She's trusting you with this information, but she doesn't want it read out loud. She's just giving it for context. And I just thought, wow, that's really insensitive. He's also very focused on the outer appearance. He spends a lot of time on that. And I think when dating and relationships, the first thing that people look at, whether you like it or not, is how you look. That's how most relationships start, is there's a physical attraction. So there's nothing wrong with talking about makeup and looking nice and presentable. I don't have a problem with that at all. But he does spend an enormous amount of time and energy on the outer appearance, the outer shell, studying the way people look and what's ugly, and you have a big forehead, or it's just sometimes it can come across as degrading. Now, I'm not saying that this guy is all bad, because he's not. I think a lot of narcissists are adjusted to society, and I think they're not extreme. They could be somewhere in the middle. They have learned societal norms, and I do think it feels good to help people. I think he's done a lot to help people, but it's just, I'm seeing a lot of red flags lately. So narcissists are everywhere, and a lot of times they don't get to the top without being a narcissist, unfortunately. You would think narcissists would be at the bottom somewhere. They're often very much at the top. I just wanted to share with you what some real life narcissists can look like, because sometimes we think of them as being a monster and all terrible, all bad, or we're totally trusting in someone because they seem so engaging, when in fact you might have a narcissist on your hands. And these are definitely not people that you want to be careful when getting into friendships or relationships with people who could end up totally exploiting you. And I've been there, done that. I should probably do some videos on that. But yeah, so you just have to be careful out there. So anyways, you guys, I really appreciate you following with me. This is our channel, so give me your insight. I'm very thankful for you guys. Also, I've written some books. I wrote a book about narcissists called The WORKPLACE NaRCISSiST, which is a very high-powered, very difficult narcissist that we can sometimes overlook. So check that book out. I'll put the link in the description box. Also wrote a book called Flip the Script on Love. So if you need some tips or some help in that area, I've got something for you. And if you are into Myers-Briggs personality types, I wrote a book from ENFJ with love, and I hope these books will help you in some way. I'll put the link in the description box, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.